That's the easy part.
We good video? All right, we'll begin with an opening statement and take questions.
Okay, guys, competition is heating up. I think we anticipated this training camp being extremely competitive at all positions. And I think after 3 days, that is definitely true. So the competition for roles on this team, I think has been intense for 3 days, and it'll continue to be that way. So we've worked hard to build this roster. We have more competitive depth, and I think that's proven to be true on offense, defense, and special teams. We had really good speaker here yesterday. You guys know Shep. Shep inspires. Ton of respect for him as a person, his message, what he's about. And he is talented. He's well prepared. And I think he talked a little bit yesterday about football reflects life to some degree. And you need covenant, right? You need three things to have a covenant. You need bond, you need pledge, and you need commitment. And I think that one of the things we've been emphasizing throughout training camp is that bond, that connection, that chemistry, that morale. New rules for training camp this year, right? So no phones in the training table, no phones in the recovery area. And that's been pretty cool to see these guys interact with each other. So being intentional, put that phone down and have an opportunity to spend some meaningful time together and connect, to listen to each other. And obviously these guys are staying at Tolbert Hall. So it's good. This group is definitely working in that regard, and I respect that about them. And it's been a good 3 days. We practiced in Spiders 2 days, Shells last night, and then we're off today, and we'll be back at it tomorrow.
They have Wi-Fi in Tolbert Hall?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I assume they do. This is University of Florida.
Where have you seen DJ Lagway grow?
Just overall comfort level with the system, I would say. I think I had a conversation with him the other day coming off after practice one, and you say, I know that wasn't perfect. The practice day is never perfect, but just think about where you're at now compared to where you were at, after spring number one. And I think all the things that we do with the quarterback throughout the summer, there's 2 4D Gator lesson plans each week. They get them on Monday. They've got a tournament on Friday. The padding that the quarterback is required to do all throughout the summer. He just jumped into that for the first time, and I think he made tremendous growth, knowledge of defense. And I think he's improved fundamentally too. I think the ball's coming out more consistently. His feet been polished up. He's getting better.
You said after the spring game where he did have a couple kind of flash plays, or several even, that he was kind of a gamer when the lights went on maybe. Mm-hmm. He's that kind of a guy. Because there had been sporadic spring for him, and understandably. But have you seen more consistency and less of those sporadic moments so far?
Well, he's still young, and I think he's taken reps with this second group of offensive players, which is a mixture of players, and I think that always, I've said many times, I think sometimes the quarterback, is dependent on the others around them to play well, and then defensively, you're always a little bit ahead in the beginning, because it requires you to be very precise on offense and all 11 players to do what they're supposed to do. So, I think overall, I would say that as a whole, we need to make improvement in that area, right? Typically, after 3 days, that's what we're talking about, Precision on offense, detail, all 11 players have been able to do their job. Great communication with the right fundamentals, and then when you get a chance to make a play, you go execute, make the play.
Understandably high expectations for Elijah Badger given his production. Where's he at right now in learning the system, and what have you seen at him for the first 3 days?
Yeah, no, he's a part of a receiver group, that is, it is extremely competitive. I think we have, after some of those guys that have played a lot of football, Trey, Chim, Khalil, then you kind of get into that next tier of player, and all those guys are doing great. And that's one of the positions on our team where some of the roles are to be determined. But I do think that Badger has made progress, and it showed up, I think, yesterday is where I was like, okay, I can kind of see, he is explosive, he is athletic, he can run after the catch, he has a vertical threat to his game, and he's got play strength, and he's got length. He's 6'1" guy, but he's got great length. So, yeah, I like the look in his eye. He's not scared to work. He's got a smile on his face. He told me last night, I could tell he was getting comfortable. He made a few plays, and I said, hey, he said, man, this is the humidity is different, right? He said, I'm used to that sun, but I'm not used to that humidity. So he said, hey, look, this practice is a lot more intense and a lot faster maybe than the ones I've been a part of in the past.
What have you seen from a line of scrimmage play? And it seemed like, Gerald Chapman and Rob Sale were coaching them pretty hard on Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we've got depth at those positions. I think we've got a good 3 deep, maybe more. I think big and long, and I think the weight room work is showing up. But all those guys are doing a good job. I think it's pretty violent out there last night. Let's put it that way. So I think that we're getting better on the edges too. I think the inside players got a chance to be pretty good up front. I think we've got some work to do there, but yeah, defensively, I thought last night they got after pretty good.
Westfall was in a non-contact jersey. How is he progressing?
Yeah, it's a general illness. He's got mono, so he'll be out a little bit, but we anticipate getting him back here pretty soon.
Jason Marshall gave us some good stuff about Joey Slackman the other day and being like a smelling salts kind of guy. Graham called him the most football guy on your team. What kind of intensity and energy does he bring in? Would you agree with that statement, him being the most football guy on your team?
Yeah, no, look, I'm a Joey Slackman guy, right? Look, I think Joey brings a maturity and an awareness. I think he's extremely bright, and he's motivated. He's driven. He's a self-starter, and he's an alpha, right? And I think he does a great job. He brings other things besides being a 6'3", 315-pound athlete to the table. I think this is his 6th year of college athletics. He told me yesterday, he said, this is the 4th year of football. I did 2 years of wrestling. But, yeah, he brings it. He's consistent. His motor's always running, and I think he has the ability to affect other people. That's one of the reasons we bought him here. And I think our players, one of the things we did in this cycle, if you go back to the beginning there, is throughout the portal process is we included our current team in those evaluations, and I think that worked. And I think that our players had conviction about adding him to the team, and ultimately he's doing a good job.
Do you have a good Joey Slackman story for us? Something that he's done in the locker room around the facility that stands out?
Well, let's put it this way. Last night, so I got a little training camp ritual. I get in the cold tub after practice, right? So I go in there. And Joey, he did a cannonball into the cold plunge last night. So that's what we're dealing with.
Hey, Bill, you talk a lot about culture and chemistry, and I get that some of that's cliche, some of that is, but it's absolutely critical.
Yeah.
But one aspect of that is the clean locker room. How did that come to pass? And who's the driving force behind this spotless locker room that everybody keeps talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just our effort to teach a sense of responsibility. I think to have some self-discipline, to take care of your stuff, to appreciate what you have, to build in some gratitude. We're trying to combat entitlement, and then we're forcing the player to make a decision every day. Am I going to do what's right? Am I going to do what's asked of me? And the more times a player and a group of players says yes to that, like, okay, I'm in. You know, we all have done it before, right? You know, my wife, she wants me to make the bed before I leave the house. You know, will the guy leave his space the way it should be left, right? And I think if we can get them to make that decision, and there's accountability there, and the players take ownership of that, I think Tyler's done a really good job of taking ownership of that throughout the offseason, throughout the summer when maybe we're not around. But again, it goes back to what I've talked a lot about this team. We've got some credible leadership at the player level that actually can get some things done, and they've made that a priority. So I think that's overall, we're trying to, you know, one day you're going to, you know, have a family and you're going to buy your teenager a car, and hopefully you're teaching, you know, these guys are teaching their son, like, hey, you take care of your stuff, right? Like, hopefully that carries over.
You added a recent player to your roster. You're going to have to help me with the first name pronunciation.
Yeah.
Tavares?
Tavares. Yeah.
Tavares. What do you think he can bring just coming in here? I know so late, but what did you identify in him when you were evaluating him?
Yeah, he's 6'6" 3/4. You know, he's 290 pounds. He played edge in high school, right? So he's 230. Yeah, just a big athletic guy who's got, you know, he's got some unique traits, right? And I think this kind of fell in our lap to some degree. We were recruiting him for January, and then found out he was a qualifier, and then it just ended up working out, right? So, yeah, so far so good. I think the reps he's taken, he's proved to have all the functional movement, the power, the length. I mean, he's a good athlete. So, yeah, I think he's got a chance. He's a 4 to play 4, you know, and I think he'll prove to be a good evaluation.
Having someone who commits, moves in right away, and hits the practice field, how important is it to have leadership at that position to help aid that acclimation process, so to speak?
Yeah, just overall, I would tell you that as an organization, kind of onboarding him is, you know, we talked specifically about that because it's unique, right? I mean, it's, and we're ramping him up, right? So it's a whole orientation process to kind of get him up to speed. So we've got a lot to teach, and he's got a lot to learn, but he's got a great attitude. He's got a great story. I mean, he's really turned his life around, and I'm excited about him.
So Billy, just going over there, just kind of watching him for a second yesterday, Caleb Banks like really stood out. Just like, just his body, just what he's done. I mean, he's not carrying a lot of body fat at 320, whatever.
Right.
What are your hopes for him? I mean, last year, early on, there was high hopes. I don't know that it translated. What are you seeing this year?
Yeah, no, Caleb was one of those players that we played last year that really had no experience, right? I mean, I can still remember him in the exit meeting. Banks was like, Coach, man, we were out there in Utah. I mean, I'm shaking like a leaf. I mean, he had never played in a college game, really. I think he played 59 plays at Louisville. Was a COVID recruit. And then we had a common relationship there when he got in the portal. But, yeah, I mean, he got significant experience last year. I think he played around, I think it's 300-plus plays. Was banged up a little bit at times in the second half of the season. So, yeah, I mean, he's on a mission, right? This guy's got traits. He's 6'5" 3/4, 320. And he's learned a lot, right? I mean, first time ever playing college football last year, goes into the offseason, has a chance to kind of prepare now, knowing what it's like out there. And he's had a good offseason. So, yeah, just continued to mature, continue to be consistent. His work ethic, his practice habits, his mental toughness, because he's certainly very talented. And, you know, at this level, everybody's got talent. Everybody's got work ethic. It's more about the intangibles, right, and how we can get better at getting better, and then the intangible parts of the team, and that's the focus with him.
Going back to Mark's question, that attention to detail and the discipline these guys have been shown, how much do you feel like that's going to translate to the field as it relates to penalties, mental errors, and things like that?
Well, I think ultimately we try to, we just try to get consumed at being the best we can be. I think, I'm a firm believer that a player that lacks character, at some point he's going to let you down. My history in coaching would tell me that. And the more we can kind of create that throughout the offseason, I think there's a chance that it'll carry over. I think that's why we do what we do. But we got to go do it. We got to go do the football part. So look, ability gets you so far. Everybody's working hard at this point, and then it becomes about, hey, look, the intangibles of your team, and then the execution part, right? So we're working on the football piece right now, and that's what we're trying to get done.
Has Graham looked as expected to start year 2 of camp, or how do you?
Yeah, Graham's great. Yeah, he's phenomenal. Yeah, he just got great energy about himself, affects other people in a positive way, extremely detailed, great note taker, great in the unit meetings, great in the position meetings, and then he's a pro. I think offense usually takes a little while to get in some rhythm. We got to kind of get the install down and get the finer details all around him, protect him, get open for him, and then be on the same page and try to stay on schedule. So, but yeah, Graham Mertz he's doing a great job leading the team. Hey, we're not going to fine you for being late, okay? We got your free pass today. I got you.
You make him run to him.
6 a.m. and getting fined. There we go.
Give me language salary, I'll find it.
Touche. All right.
So much is made of the schedule, and you've talked about it ad nauseam. But what is your message? You tell them, don't worry about it, take it a week at a time. It's done, just go out there and play every game.
Yeah, I think it's a healthy thing. I think it's good for our team in terms of like everybody's talking about that part of the year, and it's a little bit of maybe it causes them to do a little bit extra. Maybe it causes them to be a little bit more focused, a little bit more detail. You're planning, you're preparing and working hard to prepare for a great challenge, right? So, look, our ability to do that week in and week out, this team has been really close, right? And we have some experience in that locker room. And look, we're not just talking about all these teams that were ranked or are ranked. We've been on the grass with them before. And I think we've got an understanding of where the gap is at and what we need to do to make up that gap. So, yeah, right now we're focused on Florida. And we got to control what we can control, eliminate, minimize our error. And, it's kind of like sharpening the axe to get ready to go chop down the tree, right? We're going to sharpen that axe as much as we can.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys. Thank you all.
Billy, how close can you come to like snap